And here we are for what for me is less than a minute, and what for you is probably at least a day. Making a second video here on some of the issues with physicalism. And today I'm going to talk about the rationality of physicalism, whether you can consistently believe that physicalism is true or that naturalism is true without engaging in some kind of self-stultifying reasoning or whatever. So if physicalism is true, if all we are is just meat all the way down, there's no soul or mind or anything, then the mind itself is just a product of the brain, right? And that means that every first-person subjective experience you have is just the immediate cause of an underlying physical structure or whatever. Some people even equate the two. They're the same thing. But all the causal interaction happens by virtue of the first person or the third person properties of the brain. It's just a physical thing obeying the laws of nature. And so with that being the case, since causes act independently of thought or reason or anything like that, then the fact that our beliefs are all the immediate consequence of blind mechanistic causes, then there's no reason to think that any of those beliefs are true or that we should trust them. And that's true. This whole idea, I mean, we have this first person awareness that we're thinking things through, we're reasoning it, that we're holding our beliefs because of reasons or whatever. But since holding a belief because of reasons is categorically different than holding a belief because you were just directly caused by blind mechanistic causes to have that belief, are just fundamentally different ways of coming to know things. Because if you think about it, like, consider the argument that I made in a previous video: all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. Well, we arrived at that conclusion by seeing that the premises are true and that the conclusion follows from those premises. But if physicalism is true, then seeing this thing is true was caused by the brain, seeing this thing was caused by the brain, and drawing the conclusion was caused by the brain. But these causal interactions, they're not related in a logical way, they're related in a causal way. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm explaining that really well. Because after all, if somebody comes to the wrong belief about something, then they did so because of the same laws of nature that a person came to a true belief about something. So, you got two people, one of them believes something true and the other believes something false. And in both cases, they're just merely being caused by their brain chemistry to hold those beliefs. And so it seems like physicalism calls our rationality into question. It makes us question whether we should trust in our cognitive faculties at all. Now, one argument against that is that there are systems that everybody agrees are completely, physical, and yet they reliably come to true conclusions. And a calculator is a really good example. You type in the numbers and it gives you the correct answer every time. And so it's possible for our brains to work like a calculator, to reliably give us true answers, even though it's all physical and all causal and stuff. There are two problems with that argument, though. One problem is that calculators don't have beliefs. And so obviously there's no reasoning that goes on inside a calculator. It's all mechanical. And so even though calculators do come to true beliefs, calculators are not rational machines. There's no sense in which the right answer is the rational answer. The second problem with the argument is that the only reason calculators do work like that is because they were programmed to do so. And it would have been just as easy to program a calculator to come up with the wrong answers. You can program a calculator any way you want if you know how to program. You can program it to say that 2 + 2 = fish if you want. So although it is possible for something that's purely physical to come up with the true answers every time. The only reason a calculator does so is because it was programmed by somebody to do so. Now, if you say that humans' brains are reliable belief-producing machines, there's one of two ways that that could happen. It was programmed by a maker, and if you go that route, it's going to be very hard to hold on to naturalism, because who could have made it? Maybe aliens made us, but then you got to ask, well, how do their minds work? Eventually, you'll end up with something that's non-material, like a god, and we can't go there if we're naturalists. So the other way is through natural selection. Now, it makes sense prima facie that if we came to be through a process of natural selection, that we would have reliable belief-producing faculties, because true beliefs would be more likely to help us survive and reproduce than false beliefs would. If you had a true belief about where to find the food or where to find the shelter or how to avoid dangerous things, you'd be more likely to survive and reproduce. But that's only true if it can be shown that your beliefs actually affect your behavior. And the problem with physicalism is I don't see how that's possible. Because under physicalism, everything that happens in your brain can be explained by all the third-person properties. But the beliefs are first-person properties, though. And so say you have some brain state that results in some belief that, there's food in the refrigerator. And at the same time, that same brain state causes you to walk to the refrigerator to get the food or whatever. It doesn't seem like there's any way for that belief to have a causal influence over your behavior. Or if it does, it can only do so by virtue of its third-person properties. So if it only does so by virtue of its third-person properties, then none of its first-person properties can have anything to do with your behavior. And evolution can only select for adaptive behavior, and so it only selects for the cause of that behavior. So if the cause of that behavior is just your brain chemistry, then really, if you think about it, our beliefs are just superfluous. Because imagine having the exact same brain structure without having any associated mental properties at all, no beliefs, no consciousness at all. That brain structure would still produce the exact same motion in your body. You would still move the same behavior in the same way. So it seems like under physicalism, epiphenomenalism would have to be true. Epiphenomenalism is the idea that your brain can give rise to consciousness, but your conscious states cannot turn around, and the direction of causation cannot go in the other direction. And I think that epiphenomenalism follows from physicalism, because I just don't see any way how a belief that emerges from brain activity can turn around and cause something, since a belief in that case is just a property. It's not a substance. Only substances can cause things. And so if your beliefs cannot have any causal effect over your behavior, then there's no way for natural selection to select for reliable belief-producing faculties. Because not only does it not matter what you believe as far as behavior is concerned, it doesn't matter whether any of those beliefs are true as far as behavior is concerned. And so since natural selection is just completely blind to the semantic content of your beliefs, there's just no way for natural selection to produce reliable belief-producing machines in our heads. So there's two reasons there to be suspicious of our cognitive faculties if physicalism is true. And so it seems like so that means that it's always irrational to believe in physicalism, because if you believe in physicalism, then you're undermining any necessary preconditions for having any of your beliefs be rational. If physicalism is true, none of our beliefs are rational, and we have no reason to trust the reliability of our brains to give us true beliefs. So you kind of undermine the rationality of your belief in naturalism. It undermines itself. And so the only consistent belief you can have is either idealism or dualism, or maybe panpsychism. So that's about all I have to say about that. feel like I'm leaving something out, but I'm going to leave it at that.